I was noticing that a lot of these fetch applications that exist out there, they have various speeds, various capabilities to them. So let's take a look at 6 of these fetch applications that I'm familiar with. We can look at their features, what they have, and also how fast do they load, if that's important to you. So let's go ahead and start. So the first one that I'm sure everyone is aware of here is Neofetch. And Neofetch, you see in a lot of screenshots out there. It shows probably some of the most information that I'm aware of out there. It gives you all your OS information. You know, this is like my motherboard. If you bought a pre-bought system like a Dell or something along those lines, it would probably say Dell here. Gives you your kernel, uptime, packages, etc. Also tells you a little bit about the hardware down here, like what CPU, GPU, how much RAM you have, how much is being used of that RAM. This one is really good if you're looking for the whole kitchen sink of information. And you'll see I have 2 different sections here. Ultimately, we've got the full-size ones, which Neofetch is one of the full-size ones that's showing you a lot of information here. And then we're going to go into some of the micro-sized fetch applications. Next is an oldie but a goodie. It is Screenfetch. They're like, actually, let me clear that and we can see it cleanly. Yeah, Screenfetch. I think it's one of the original ones that I'm aware of. I believe it's older than Neofetch, but don't quote me on that. Very similar information to Neofetch, some slight variations to it, but for the most part, one thing you'll notice on a lot of these full-size ones is you'll see the resolution here. It has different resolution types based upon how it's measuring. So this one is just seeing my 2 monitors as one big huge monitor, and if we go back to Neofetch here, you can see that I've got a 1920 by 1080 display and a 2560 by 1080 display, and it's showing them as 2 different displays instead of one big huge resolution. All right, the next one we're going to take a look at is Freshfetch. And this is the one that I actually use most of the time when you go into my terminal, like if you come in fresh, it's going to pop out Freshfetch for me. And I like this one. It seems to be a little bit faster than Neofetch and Screenfetch while still showing a lot of information here and omitting some of the stuff that's not really important to me. All right, now let's go into some of the micro ones. Pfetch. I think a lot of people are familiar with that one. It's pretty quick. It shows you minimal information. Basically, the host is your motherboard, and then that's about all it shows you other than kernel information, system, uptime, and your packages. Another thing that's interesting about a lot of these different fetch applications, maybe it's just because it's NixOS that I'm using, but they don't know how to calculate packages correctly. So you'll see some that have a certain number, some that have another, and some that have no number at all because it just doesn't know what to do with it. Let's go to Nitch. Actually, let me clear that first. Nitch, I really like this one a lot. It's interesting. It's using iconography here for each of the various categories, but you can see here the packages. It doesn't know how to calculate the packages, so that's kind of interesting. But I like the look of this. I think this one looks really nice. And then last but not least, let's look at Disfetch. Very similar to Pfetch. I think it shows a couple more things than Pfetch. But you can also see here, it doesn't know how to handle the packages here. It just says 0. Now, I did have a bonus one here, and that's CPUfetch. This one is somewhat related. It basically just tells you about the CPU that you have. So if you want to get more detailed information about the CPU that is on the machine that you're using, CPUfetch will do that. It gives you some nitty-gritty details on it and kind of interesting, and also the peak performance. I assume that's something that it's getting from a database that it's saying, it's 1.28 teraflops for my particular CPU that I have here. Now, what I wanted to do is go through and let's go through the speed of each of these. And I'll probably speed this portion up so we don't have to look at all of them again. And then I'll create a table and showcase, the various speeds of these. But if you use the time ls and you pipe that into whatever app that you want to run inside of the terminal, it will give you the speed of how long it takes to run that. So if we run this, you can see that it takes us 393 milliseconds for Neofetch on my particular machine. Your machine may vary. It may be faster if you have a much faster machine, or slower if you got a slower machine. But this is all going to be relative to each other, so we can go from there. So let me just run these real quick, and then I will show you the graph at the end. Okay, here are our results for the speed test. As you can see, Nitch comes in by far the fastest with only 73 milliseconds. But the other two micro fetch applications are not far behind. And as you can see, the micro, they don't have to pull as much information, so obviously they are going to move a lot faster. But Freshfetch isn't too far behind for one of the full-size ones. Neofetch, pretty sluggish, and Screenfetch, wow, that one is really fallen behind. So if you're looking for speed, Nitch is your king for the micro ones, and if you want speed in the full-size one, Freshfetch is the one that's going to be the fastest out of these 6 that we tested today. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching the video and getting this far. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later.